I know we talk a lot about self control in media, whether it's something like the Stanford marshmallow experiment or how to get unlimited willpower. You see the idea that I need to restrain myself as the primary method through which people achieve transformations and improve themselves. And while some of it is true, I think there's almost an overrating of the idea of intrepidness because it speaks to our broader human urge that everything that is impactful is hard fought. And as somebody who has seen a little bit of effortless success in some areas, I want to challenge that paradigm and ask whether it's more important to have willpower or if it's more important to create systems that don't rely on willpower alone. Hi, I'm the machine. I have a video blog as well as a website where I talk about things that I find interesting. And one thing that I've been finding super interesting as of late is habit formation. But coupled with habit formation, willpower and self control often show up as topics, and the way that people are supposed to get better at achieving their goals is to grow a deeper level of self control. And while this is probably not especially bad, I don't quite understand how it can help out. How do you build willpower? If willpower is merely a function of doing something repeatedly, a skill like everything else, you'd expect you'd gain more willpower by doing more temptations to become more tempted to things. So the way to quit chocolate is to start taking heroin and prove to yourself that you can get off that. That obviously isn't right. So if that isn't right, well, why is it right that damaging or making uncomfortable what you're doing um, will achieve your goals? I don't think that entire paradigm makes very much sense. Instead, I think looking to really optimize your systems is a better way of achieving the transformation that you want. If willpower is sort of like a limited resource of being able to make active decisions, you should be looking to areas where you don't expend all your willpower on this. Because even as you're trying to create a new habit, it's important to have enough self awareness that you're able to continue through and keep doing what you want to do. I'm addicted to sugar a little bit. I love the taste of sweets. My favorite sweets are probably tres leches cake and this really, really, really good rainbow cookie from a local bakery of mine. I haven't had either of these things in a while, and I'd probably fold the instant I found it. If it was in my fridge sometime, oh my god, so much for my diet. But if I know that I'm not very good around these temptations, having it in front of me is probably not a great idea for achieving my goals. So, one strategy that I've seen oftentimes helps people out is to create distance between the thing that they don't want to do and their ability to do it. So, with the example of not having sweets in the house, it becomes a lot harder to engage in the habit. And this doesn't take willpower because it's not as if you are experiencing the thing at the time. When I'm going shopping, is generally not the time that I most crave sweets. And so I create a condition that makes it easier to avoid it in the future. So you can see how systems sort of play into this a little bit, um, and the more obstacles you can put in the way of things that are undesirable, the less likely it is for you to continue it. So, something that is typically used to approach addictive behavior is to have a little rubber band on your wrist. And when you think of the addictive behavior, you give yourself a flick. And what this does is it tries to associate a little bit of pain with something that's previously thought to be pleasurable. This is kind of the central idea behind Tony Robbins. It's really important to think about what causes pain and what causes pleasure and use these two things together to really motivate yourself. And he talks a little bit more about this from like a willpower and like how do I see things as this way perspective. But I want to continue to really hone in on the importance of thinking in systems. And so we've kind of established one way of making it harder to do something you don't want to do. Now let's talk a little bit more about how you can make it easier to do something you do want to do. One way that people tend to do well at things is they do them a lot. Excuse me. One such thing that people want to do a lot, but often don't, is go to the gym and exercise. But there's days where you don't want to go to the gym, and there's days where you don't want to exercise. So, how do you create a situation which encourages you to do what you need to do? One second. Um, Sorry to lose my train of thought for a little bit, but essentially, the way that you get to habits that you really want to keep or habit formation is through finding and doing things consistently that act in accordance with what you want to do while also not overwhelming yourself. For instance, the gym thing. If I need to work out more, if I see the gym as a greater part of my identity, because let's say I don't go and work out very hard every day, but I'm there all the time, it becomes a lot easier to do that. In the same sort of way that if I was to meet at a fast food place with my friends, every time I wanted to go hang out with them, I would eat more fast food. So finding out ways of being comfortable in the spaces that you want to go at or where you'll do the activities you want to see. Another thing that can help is to start small and to work up. So, oftentimes, if you can improve something like 1 to 2% each time you do something, then over time you start to see really positive results stack up. I didn't really know much about the right ways of working out when I started out, but as I spent more time working out, I had a better understanding of how to squat, of how to deadlift, of how to bench. I actually even reached the 1,000 pounds club at one point. So I'd say those are two broad ways of improving. And then the third way of kind of getting at this is to figure out ways to encourage yourself or make whatever you're doing exciting. If you can hit a personal record in whatever you're trying to do every week, even if it's a very small personal record, then you will energize yourself and give yourself confidence in approaching something. So I think about it like so maybe lifting the most weight every week is not realistic. But if I'm going to be lifting at different consistencies or trying different exercises, there's a lot of different areas where I can improve, depending on how many reps I'm taking, depending on how fast I'm trying to go through these things. And really taking the opportunity to see every attempt to achieve something as a victory is super helpful. This is why it's also good to break down major goals into very small, repeatable, easy to follow tasks, because it's easy to get discouraged when you don't really know what the next step is or you're not receiving positive feedback. So, anyways, that's a little bit about why willpower and self control are somewhat overrated, at least in the media, compared to things like having really good systems in place and really good incentive structures that encourage you to feel rewarded when you do things that you want to ultimately end up doing.